All right, everybody. Planet of the Humans. I recorded a breakdown of this video a couple of days ago, but I figured I wanted to do something else, so here it is. Welcome to my desktop. Welcome to my internet browser. Here, let me take my little cheat sheet so you can see where this is going. I think it is an important film. I think it is a film that you should watch before listening to my to my breakdown. I try to be as brief as possible. I mean, it's not easy for a 1 hour and 40 minute film. But what they set out to do is a pretty important step. It's creating awareness. I agree with a lot of what is said in this film, but I also disagree with some of the stuff that is in here. So yeah, let's do this. First of all, obviously, the main driver, the main narrative of the film is climate change is a big problem. It's our consumerism that is making it worse. So we have anthropogenic climate change. Climate changes all the time, I know, but the influence of humans cannot be discounted. You see some pretty horrid stuff like people pushing cars into rivers because they don't run anymore or they're useless. Forests being clear cut for coconut oil or for sugar cane or something like that. And then the narrative switches over to, well, what are we doing about it? And I use the quotation marks deliberately because basically this movie is an expose of the environmental movement. The bottom layer of the environmental movement believes that we can change this predicament that we are in by deploying wind and solar. And the funny thing is, at first, the narrator, Jeff Gibbs, he goes to this solar festival somewhere in upstate Vermont, and it turns out that because of the rain, the festival is now being run on biodiesel. And at some point, the biodiesel doesn't work anymore. So, what do you got to do? You have to get your juice off the grid somehow. So, yeah, that's happening. And then he basically explains how the solar and the wind industry are pretty fleeting in by nature. So if you have, for instance, they go to this community in California where there used to be a solar installation, but it's already gone. So this was a multi-million or multi-billion-dollar solar installation. Everybody in the community was happy that it was being built, and they thought that they would be getting jobs. But unfortunately, once such an installation is built, there's little more you can actually do. So yeah, the jobs left, and in the end, the plant left as well. Big surprise. Now the community is left with nothing because it basically was a very small community which didn't have a lot of activities to go on in any case. But now they're worse off because their environment has been basically destroyed for the sake of having this solar installation there. They also go over Ivanpah, the fact that it needs so much gas to get started in the morning because it cools down during the night, and it's a solar salt, probably a nitrite salt. So that's pretty important. And you also get to see how people are clear cutting forests or patches of forests or mountaintops to put up windmills, to have the most optimum spot. And so basically, what you get to see is there are some environmentalists in this movie that are like, this is not saving the environment, this is destroying the environment. So there are some woke people in there, people who are actually aware of the fact that what we are doing is excuse me for the profanity, but bullshit. So then Gibbs takes us on. He, shows us that Bloomberg, Richard Branson, Van Jones, Al Gore, and Bill McKibben, they're all fighting coal. And in the meanwhile, they're propping up biomass. So they know full well that this society does not run on intermittency. So instead, well, not only that. Wait a second. They know full well that this society of ours does not run on intermittency, but they also know that there's a lot of money to be made if you have a commodity that you can harvest, transform, and then sell. So this is, for instance, the reason why corn ethanol is such a big thing in the U.S. Al Gore is actually one of the big drivers behind corn ethanol. And corn ethanol is useless. Well, it's not useless, but it's just a misappropriation of resources, really, because it's using loads of water, using loads of farmland to create something that is adverse, for the climate, because it's used to run cars and other, perhaps industrial processes. Same can be said for Brazil. We just featured in the film. You see one of these rich people, these investor type guys who says, well, we are very interested in Brazil because what they're doing there is very interesting to us. And that's because in Brazil, rainforest has been clear cut to, cultivate sugarcane. And that sugarcane is then transformed into fuel for cars. Why? Because Brazil doesn't have any oil reserves. So they need an alternate source of fuel for the vehicles. And they don't want to be dependent on, the OPEC countries. So there you have the same issue. So if you look at the entire narrative, it's basically our consumption of combustible fuels is what drives climate change, which is correct. And the perceived solutions to, the use of combustible fuels, wind and solar, are actually not solutions. And instead, the billionaires, the investors, they are all pushing biofuels, knowing full well that these things are, big money makers, have a good label. People are still dim-witted enough to not understand that it's actually a problem for the environment, that they are doing it. So this is the entire film in a nutshell. Renewables are not sustainable because they're fleeting and they're intermittent. The head honchos in the environmental movement and some rich investors, they have latched on to the idea that we need to transition from fossil fuels to something else. Wind and solar are nice, they're renewables, they have a good label, but there's real money to be made in hydrocarbons harvested from the soil instead of pumped from underneath the soil. So it's a pretty good film, but there's one thing that I disagree with. I think that Gibbs has diagnosed the patient correctly. And I also believe that he almost has the cure. I've got a couple of links up here that I will share with you in the description below that put into words what is going on here better than I am doing right now. But I wanted to make this video anyway because it's a required thing, you know. This is right up my sleeve, you know. This is something that I've made a documentary like this, but I believe that my documentary offers a solution instead of just saying that human existence is already far beyond sustainability and billionaires are not our friends and less is the new more. So let's just watch the last couple of minutes of this film. I'm putting it in this browser, not intending to do any copyright infringement or anything like that. But I want to hear what this guy is saying. If you haven't seen it yet, you know, what are you still doing here? Go watch the film first. So right now I'm going to press play. Let's see what is going on.
Now I know this all might seem overwhelming. It's the kind of thing that we normally don't try and think about. But by not thinking about it, it stands a good chance of doing us in. I truly believe that the path to change comes from awareness. That awareness alone can begin to create the transformation. There is a way out of this. We humans must accept that infinite growth on a finite planet is suicide. We must accept that our human presence is already far beyond sustainability and all that that implies. We must take control of our environmental movement and our future from billionaires and their permanent war on planet Earth. They are not our friends. Less must be the new more. And instead of climate change, we must at long last accept that it's not the carbon dioxide molecule destroying the planet. It's us. It's not one thing, but everything we humans are doing. A human-caused apocalypse. If we get ourselves under control, all things are possible. And if we don't,
so this is, you know, I feel for the orangutan as well, the ruddy ape. I think this is bullshit too. I think we should stop this nonsense. So there's nothing wrong with this message. You know, we have to stop this. It's bullshit. We don't need to do this. But profit is more important than, you know, the living space of one of our closest relatives, the orangutan. So this is heartbreaking. I mean, what are I don't know, the people filming this, are they the lumberjacks or are they actually people who care about what is happening to these animals? And you know, there's other animals in there as well. There's not just orangutans. There's also other creatures. So yeah, there's our ruddy ape still clinging on to the last tree that's left. Well, let's see. I know. Let's see. Planet of the Humans. This is poignant. The last thing that is on screen. Let's see if it's in there. Yeah, come on. Give us, because we don't want to, you know. Producer, Aussie Center. A week after this film was produced, blah de blah de blah. This here. A week after this film premiered, Sierra Club came out against biomass burning. Days later, they gave a green award to a college that burns biomass. Isn't that ironic, right? That's ironic. So, but I do believe that Sierra Club and others, that they really want a renewable, revolution or whatnot. But the trouble is that Jeff Gibbs fails to give us a solution. He just says, well, think about it. We are consuming too much. There's too many humans, basically. We need to do more with less. And that's it, basically. That's it. And I agree to some extent. But I'm also a realist. And I know that there's still 2.5 billion people in the pipeline. So, humanity will basically end up being as big as 10 to 11 billion people. And are we going to let them live in squalor? Are we going to let them be destitute and, die of illness, diarrhea, malaria? Don't get me wrong. The corona situation is serious. But it can't light a candle to what, filthy water does. If you don't have any sanitation to speak of, if you don't have any clean water, the chances are quite big that you as a child will die of diarrhea. I just can't wrap my head around it. I want solutions. I want solutions not just for a climate problem, but I also want solutions for the poor. I also want. It's easy for me, a fat white guy in the West, who doesn't have a job but still owns a house, who has all this technology in front of him, who can drink his cola if he wants to, who has, Lego up the wazoo, who has a spare camera lying around. For me, life is peachy, despite the fact that I have, a brain disease. But there's 2.5 billion people that have not yet been born, that will be born in the poorest regions of this planet. And you don't offer a solution for them. And that's the one thing that bothers me the most about this Planet of the Humans film. So I agree, I can do more with less. Most of the Western world can do more with less. But realize we are only 1 billion people. There's another, 3 or 4 billion people that are pretty well off by now. They live decent lives. But there's still 2 to 3 billion people who live in, sorry to say, shithole countries where their governments are not strong enough to provide them with what they need in terms of sanitation, in terms of medication, in terms of food security, in terms of habitation. And this is just too much. And these problems are just too big to say, well, let's do more with less. It's just bullshit. This is not reality for these people. So, yeah. This is something that makes me angry. I'm a nuclear humanist. Yeah, I believe that nuclear is the answer to most of our problems today, but I'm also a humanist. I care about what other people experience. Other people are suffering. I have my own sufferings. Poor people are suffering. There are people, we have to do something about that. And I think that this film misses the point. This film is aimed at us, the rich The rich people from the West who have everything they want. So, yeah, it makes me angry. Sometimes I have to vent. I wanted to point you to a couple of good things that you can do. First of all, I think that you need to read Amelia Tieman's new blog, which she has published on the Fourth Generation website. It's an interesting website to which I'm also a contributor. So please go there, subscribe, make sure that you're on the email updates list, and read this very brilliantly written blog by Amelia Tieman. Very good, very insightful. Also, on Medium, written by Generation Atomic. It's Eric Meijer from Generation Atomic. He writes something similar with loads and loads of interesting infographics and such. I will leave the links in the description below. I think that these are much more insightful things. And finally, this is something that I wish you'd also do, and that is go to my channel and watch Climate Zero Hour, the documentary. If you haven't already, it's kind of stupid, say, well, watch my documentary. It's my documentary, but you know what? Here, Michael Moore is presenting his own documentary as well, so I can present my documentary on my own channel. It has gotten, less than 1% of what Michael Moore's film has got. It only has 10,000 views, but I think that it is more insightful. It gives you a view on our current problem from explained to you by experts like Ken Caldera, who's a professor who was a professor at Stanford University, now works for Bill Gates. Kirsty Gogan, who does excellent work in the nuclear community. The Mothers for Nuclear are in there. I also have I also have Ripudaman Malhotra in there, Alex Canera, and other people who are very interesting. So check it out if you want. I mean, it's there, it's free, just like Planet of the Humans is. It takes up a little less time. It's only an hour and 13 minutes instead of an hour and 40 minutes. So maybe it's better. All the links are in the description down below. Thank you all for watching. Have a nice day. And if you don't see your name in the credits, please shoot me a message because I'm trying something new today. And it's possible that not everybody is in there. So thanks again. Bye-bye.